Righty, folks, welcome. It's a happy Tuesday. I'm Tom Schmidt,
And I'm Tom Turton.
and this is Talking with Tom, episode 2. Well, Tom, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. It's getting a little hot out there, but I'm doing fine. How about
hot.
you?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah, I kind of like the hot weather.
I would rather have it hot than cold. I can always cool off, but if I get chilled, that's it. Stand me
Sure.
on charcoal briquettes that are just white hot, and I'm still chilled.
Well, we do this poll every morning on Daybreak,
Yeah.
and so today's question of the day was, do you like the heat, or do you like this heat wave we're in right now? And a lot of folks were kind of split in the middle. It was a 2.5-star rating out of 5 is what we got. And so what we kind of determined, Angela and I on air, was that it either means some people hate the heat,
Yeah.
they want it to go away, they're just not used to it, or they like it, kind of like what we're saying right now. We'll take this heat after all the rain and the cloudy days we've seen this springtime.
It really just depends on how long it decides to stick around.
Yeah, that's the question.
The thing that people are saying a lot is, wait a minute, summer just started. And that's the thing that you always have in the back of your mind. It just started. What's it going to be like in August?
That's right. We got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Just began on the 20th, and we're 4 days in. 4 90-degree days, 91 for the last 4 days in a row.
Yeah. We know how to set records.
Yeah, not yet. No records
but
yet.
4 in a row.
Yeah.
This early in the summer, that's a record for me.
It's a lot. It is quite a
Yep.
few for June. Yeah, no kidding. All right, so Tom, you kind of brought this up in the past a few times.
Yeah.
There was a study done years ago, actually the same year I was born, so 27 years ago in 1998.
Uh-huh.
And the study said Springfield.
Yes. They did an analysis of 700 cities
Okay.
across the United States, as I recall. And out of all of those cities, the city with the most varied weather was Springfield, Missouri.
Springfield, Missouri. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we go. We'll take a look at what they found. But yeah, go ahead. What do you remember of this survey, and what does it make sense?
What just thinking about it for a while, the only kind of weather phenomenon we don't get is the eye of a hurricane.
Yeah.
Because we get the feeder bands. We get everything from temperatures well below freezing, below zero, all the way into the 100s. That's a huge temperature span. We get regular rain and drizzle and then thunderstorms, and then we get severe thunderstorms. We have tornadoes. We have blizzards. We have droughts. We have floods. We have flash. We had all of that type of weather right here in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, we do. And so the study, going into it a little more, was able to find the study. I had to ask help from the National Weather Service.
That's where I would have gone.
Because you Google it and you find all these references to the study, but you can't find the study itself.
Yes.
So kind of tricky. But got the Weather Service to help, and they found the study and sent it along. And it was a study. This particular study was 277 cities. This is the one that they sent along, and done 1998. And they basically looked at a bunch of things. So their methods included, it was a scale. They broke it up into several categories.
Right.
So a category for temperature swings, both daily and annually. Looked at thunderstorms, rain amounts, snow, ice, all those kinds of things, and kind of broke them up into categories and had a point scale within each category for a total of 100 points. And so Springfield scored the highest number of points overall as an average. And
we're number one.
We're number one. And so that means we have the most varied weather, according to the study from 1998.
The other thing I drew out of that is that's why it's so difficult to forecast, into a couple, 3, 5, whatever, how many days, because there are so many variables we have to deal with right here in Springfield, Missouri. And that's why, of course, the Mets at the National Weather Service and the one like yourself and Jamie and Matt and people you have to be on your game to do it right in Springfield.
You got to be paying attention. There's no doubt. Now, the interesting thing about the study also
Yeah.
was that, okay, so this is a map of what kind of shows their findings. So the white blob right over the Ozarks is the most variable weather.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of it Midwest, up in the plains a little bit, up toward the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But then when you get down to like Southern California, Arizona, they found it to be the least variable weather.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. And kind of the joke around here is, man, it would be nice to be a weatherman down in L.A. or San Diego.
San Diego, that's the one.
San Diego, yep.
Yeah, well, that's where you get it on cartoons. What's the weather? Nice. Back to you.
Exactly.
That's kind of the way those things go, and you have to learn how to do a lot of other things. But the thing is, with having to deal with so many different types of weather, you also have to be able to recognize so many different signatures, in the charts and things that will determine, is this going to be ice? Is it going to be snow? Is it going to be rain? Is it freezing? There are so many different signatures you have to be able to recognize to put together a forecast here.
There's a lot, and you've mentioned this before too. We've got weather that comes from pretty much every direction.
Yes.
We've had backdoor cold fronts that come from the east, running back to the west. That's opposite of what we typically find. We've got like right now we're in a heat dome.
Yep.
But you know what? In Kansas, it'd be tricky right now if you're forecasting in Wichita because they're sitting right on the edge.
The edge of it.
So they could either see a whole bunch of rain or hot and dry weather.
Yeah.
And so it's been a tricky case for folks out to the west, but this area, this Midwest, the plains, you get all these tricky situations where if you're off by 20 miles, your weather pattern is completely different.
Absolutely. And you could see different weather patterns between Kansas City and here.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't take a huge distance to be totally different weather.
No.
When you're in the plains especially. And it's you recognize things every now and then, and right when you think you've got it nailed, Mother Nature goes, nah, boom, and hits you with something else. Oh no, it's not going to be a front moving through. It's this little bitty disturbance. You don't even notice it yet, but it's going to come out of Kansas or out of Oklahoma and change your weather. It's a butterfly effect with weather.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Also making the list, so they rank out the entire 277 cities in the study. And so Columbia, Missouri came in number 5. Okay. And then I think, so the top 5, if I remember correctly, it was Springfield, Missouri, number 1. Topeka, Kansas, number 2.
Doesn't surprise me.
No. And then number 3 was Rochester, Minnesota. Kind of out there.
That's an outlier.
Yeah. And then number 4 was back to Wichita, Kansas. And then Columbia, Missouri was number 5.
So we had 2 of the top 5.
2 of the top 5. Yep. And Kansas City, I want to say, was somewhere in the top 20.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show.
It's just, there are so many things that come into play to doing weather here. We all refer to, the peneplain and the Ozarks and the effect it has on weather and the Route 44 corridor and all of this stuff. But what it just does, it says it's not easy to forecast weather in this area all the time.
No, it's certainly not. So that kind of raises a question. You've been doing this a while, just to say the least, living here in the Ozarks and seeing a lot of weather. And, of course, now you kind of stepped into the unscripted roles.
Yeah.
But you forecasted back when forecasting was a bit tougher than what it is today, I'd say. Because what I do is I just sit in front of a computer screen and I can look at any model that's available. And there's hundreds of models to look at.
When you say it's harder, maybe we didn't have as much data to look at.
Sure, yeah.
The toughest thing was when I first started doing weather, it was all, maps that were being printed out.
Oh, yeah.
And you put them up on the wall and you look at them. It's just old school way of doing it. But it still boils down to whoever is looking at this data, they have to be able to interpret it. It's not as though this data says it's going to be partly cloudy unless you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's never been easy in the plains, never been easy in the Ozarks to do weather. And there are fallacies about, we don't get tornadoes here because of this. It's like, you never say never when it comes to severe weather.
I think, Branson 2007.
They found out, yes.
Yeah, right. Had a tornado go through Branson. Everybody thought the Ozark Plateau, there's no tornadoes here. The hills make them not happen.
Yeah, but that's one of those things I always, and I know we've discussed that, a lot of people have discussed this.
Yeah.
That thing is how many tens of thousands of feet in the air?
Right.
And they think your 1,000 feet move here is going to really do anything? Not so much.
Yeah,
Not so much.
This down here doesn't do much for what's happening all the, 90% of the atmosphere above.
Right. These aren't the Rocky Mountains.
No.
So.
No, not at all. Pretty, though.
Yeah.
Pretty area.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Tom Turton, you wanted to talk about a subject. You had a question you wanted to look at.
It is a question of sorts, but it's one that I know I've gotten, you may have gotten. It's like,
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
It's a what's the difference between kind of question.
Right.
And maybe if we could run through from cloudy to sunny.
Okay.
Okay. And because you have partly this, mostly that, kind of this, what is that? But I think people get them all jumbled up. All right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's see if we can walk our way from cloudy skies
All right.
all the way to sunny skies.
Okay.
So we'll start cloudy, which would be next.
Cloudy would be, I'd say, mostly cloudy.
Mostly cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then what follows mostly cloudy?
Well, it'd be partly cloudy is what I'd go for.
See, I'd go the other way.
Partly sunny.
Partly sunny because it's more clouds than sun.
Oh, I see.
See, there's where you
All
get.
right.
So you go cloudy, mostly cloudy, partly sunny, partly cloudy because you have more sun than cloud, and then mostly cloudy, or mostly clear and clear.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's the way I would do it.
Well,
It's when they get the partly and this and that, it gets mixed up.
right. I kind of want to keep. So you're saying, to me, you might even use those interchangeably. Partly sunny, partly
Oh,
cloudy.
no, I would not. Oh, no.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, of course not.
I think we should probably go to the National Weather Service for a clear,
I think so.
We should talk. But I think, yeah, it would be cloudy, mostly cloudy, partly sunny, partly cloudy, mostly sunny, sunny.
All right.
What do they have?
So the answer is this is from the National Weather Service.
All right.
They have been kind enough to define these terms for us with their great wealth of knowledge and understanding. So first of all, they determined cloud cover.
Yes.
It's the definition of that is sky conditions are measured in tenths of opaque cloud cover. So
now they're going with the opaque.
now they're going opaque.
Oh.
So if it's like high, wispy, thin clouds,
Yes.
they're not counting those. But if it blocks out the sun, like these puffy cumulus clouds,
Yes.
they'll count that towards opaque.
All right, I'll go with that.
Right. And so let's start with cloudy to overcast. They
Right.
say it's 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10
Okay.
cloud cover. So 90% to 100%
All right.
cloudy.
I'll go with that.
Mostly cloudy, they say 7/10 to 8/10 cloud cover. So 70 to 80% cloudy, mostly cloudy. And then what they do is they kind of mix partly cloudy and partly sunny together to fill that middle.
Oh,
Middle
I see
space.
they're hedging their bets. Oh.
That's right. And so they have partly cloudy / partly sunny
Okay.
as 3/10 to 6/10. So 30% to 60% cloud cover. Now you're saying that if it was on the cloudier side of halfway,
Yes.
so 60% cloudy, that would be partly sunny.
Yes.
Correct.
See, if you think of my face as the sun,
Sure.
now you have partly sunny. Okay.
Okay.
Now it's just partly cloudy.
Now it's just most of the
Now
face.
mostly sunny and sunny.
Okay.
That's the way I looked at it. I have no scientific measure of it. It's just the way I thought it.
Sure.
It registers in my mind.
Well, the National Weather Service is leaving it up to interpretation on that one. Now, they did say, though, if you're going to use the term partly sunny, it's got to be during the daytime. So.
Well, but I
So
can't see the sun, so would it be cloudy?
I don't,
Really thick
I don't know,
cloud
man.
cover. Maybe that's
Tough
what it
questions.
is.
Maybe that's why it gets dark at night.
Could be.
Just forget the sun. Just
Yeah, the
gets
sun
cloudy
doesn't
all
go
of a sudden.
down. It's sitting out there by itself. We turn away.
Yeah,
We
right.
turn our backs to the sun.
But they say only use the partly cloudy or partly clear terminology
Well, you could.
overnight. Right. So I guess you could throw that in there. All right, and then after that, mostly sunny would be 2/10 cloud cover, so 20% cloudy.
Right.
Then clear skies, sunny skies, 0 to 10% cloud cover.
And that's a part of opacity, too, because
Yes.
you could have those high wispy cirrus clouds or things like that.
Yeah, and they'd probably
It
call
doesn't
that.
block anything.
No. So their thing is if it doesn't block the sunlight, which in turn is responsible for, heating the
Yep.
surface, if it doesn't block any of that heat or sunlight from reaching the ground, then it's not considered cloudy or
Yes.
cloud cover.
Yes. And that
So.
leads to another thing. It's like it doesn't heat the earth. The sun doesn't heat the air.
No, it
The
doesn't.
sun heats the earth.
Heats the ground.
And radiational heating is what happens.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people kind of think that the sun is responsible for heating the atmosphere, but it doesn't. And it's something to do with the makeup of the sun the solar radiation coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't get absorbed.
Well, if it did, you probably couldn't get thunderstorms.
Oh, maybe
Because
not.
you have to heat the ground up to heat that air against the ground to make it lighter to move up into the atmosphere,
Yeah.
into the cooler air.
Oh, you're right. You need that buoyancy.
Yeah.
To get
In other
thunderstorms
words,
going.
we would be burning up in outer space and it'd be getting colder and colder and colder and colder.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually a good observation.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So while I was on the Weather Service page,
Yep.
they also went ahead and defined some other terms
All right.
similar to the, definitions of cloudiness, definitions of rain chances,
Okay.
like isolated, scattered, numerous or widespread.
Yes.
So they went ahead and were kind enough to do the work, the heavy lifting
They do.
on defining these terms.
Okay. What do you have?
Well, okay. So first of all, last week we talked about what is a rain chance.
Yes, percentage, that kind of thing.
It's a probability. And so the definition of that is there's kind of three parts to it, according to them. That's the likelihood of occurrence at all
Right.
over a specified time period
Mm-hmm.
over any given point in the forecast area.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition of a rain chance. And so, Tom, if you forecast for a slight or an isolated chance of rain, what would you guess is the official definition of that?
Slight or isolated?
Slight to isolated.
Slight to isolated. I would say that's maybe a 10 to 15% chance.
Not bad. 10 to 20.
10 to 20, okay.
10 to 20.
All right.
So right there. Now, a chance of showers, just, kind of scattered.
I would be in the range of like 30%, right in there, 20 to 30%.
That's right. So they say chance to scattered is.
I'm sorry, it's the National Weather Service.
Yeah, right. They're on to us. Better get going. 30 to 50%.
Oh, 30 to 50.
30 to 50. So they bring scattered all the way up to 50%.
Okay, all
so,
right.
50-50 chances.
But scattered
right.
can cover a huge area.
It
I mean,
can.
scattered all over the place is still a lot of shower activity going on.
It can, and we'll see that, later this week with what they call the ring of fire with the heat dome. And it's
Yeah.
like all the southeast up into Missouri. So you're talking, probably hundreds, if not thousands of square miles
Oh, yeah.
under scattered chances of rain. And then the final and this is kind of interesting, they stopped at the likely category. So they stopped there.
Okay.
So a likely chance of rain, it says 60% to 70%.
Okay.
But they didn't have a scale that went above likely, at least not on this particular webpage. at the Weather Service.
I think the category above likely is rain.
Rain. Yeah, right. 80 to 100. Yeah, right.
It's going to rain.
You're saying
Carry your
rain.
umbrella.
That makes sense.
But I mean, I understand, working those numbers because as you and I both know, that's only as good as the data you have in that time period, because it's like, okay, again, you are forecasting chance of rain covers a time period, a locale,
right?
That sort of thing. So the time period, well, an hour ago, I was right on the money. Everything has changed. And we have to live with our forecast.
Oh, yeah.
We can't change it every 10 minutes.
No.
Throughout the day.
No, I forecast once in the morning.
Yeah.
And then maybe a little checkup before midday.
Right.
But, man, for daybreak, sometimes I'm just running through saying, okay, rain's going to start at 7 a.m., and then it'll be 10 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, well, it's just now crossing the state line.
Yeah. But that's what happens.
Yeah.
And, you're also letting people know that there's going to be a chance for rain now. I mean, I may not be able to get it to the exact minute, but I'm letting you know there's going to be rain moving into our forecast area.
Yeah, there will be.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting. Just kind of break up those chances. Because today we have an isolated chance. 10%, 20%.
Yeah.
Across the Ozarks.
Of course. And that, again, that's one of the things that at times is difficult because there's no front coming through.
No.
There's no disturbance necessarily coming through.
Nope.
But you have enough moisture and you have heat.
Plenty of it.
That makes lift, condensation. You're going to get rain. You can get thunderstorms out of it too.
Yeah, you can.
And that's what happens a lot during the summer with this kind of heat. It's like, there's a chance. There's a good chance somewhere in the Ozarks.
This huge area, someone's going to get rain.
I mean, we all wish we could be absolute pinpoint. There it is.
Oh, I know.
We know it's going to happen at 2:35. It just doesn't work that way.
No, it just can't. And there's still kind of a randomness and an unknown with the the details, the nitty gritty of getting down to weather. We know what causes it. We can pick out patterns, but hey, is the air going to start rising enough at 3 p.m. or is it going to be 3:30?
Not as long as patterns change. It's not going to be, 100%.
No. It's funny because we do these weather classes. We go out in the community and do stuff. And so last year I did a couple at some 55 plus communities around Springfield. And they're a lot of fun. They're great. And, we go to the kids all the time and it was just fun, energetic, but you kind of have to tone down your subject matter, what you can talk about. You can't really dive into the science as much. But with these 55 plus communities, you can actually get in and talk a little bit more, explain it a bit more, and they ask some tougher questions. At the end, they sure do. Oh man, that brings up another point. But the point I was going to make before was, oh man, these questions they ask. One of them was this guy afterwards walked up and asked, "Why can't you forecast when it's going to rain, like at my house?" And there's the actual question. And I'm like, well, I just tried to explain it like, well, it just doesn't work that way. It's a huge area. And some people this guy just couldn't understand. Like, well, all the technology, all we have today and all the other understanding of weather, why is there still this unknown about forecasting and getting down to the specifics? This time, this place, this is exactly what it's going to be at this exact time. It's tricky. There's still this unknown about it.
Well, it's not steady state.
No.
If everything was steady state, you wouldn't need a degree to do weather.
Yeah.
You just look a few hundred miles to your west and say, that's going to be here in, let's see, it's moving in 12 hours. And that's all you need.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere is not steady state. So it's not possible to do that.
No.
I wish it were. You wish it were.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I don't know. We may not have jobs if it was that easy.
Yeah.
Might be out of a job if that was the case.
Well, it may have never existed. It's like, I can tell what's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And we have some of the best when it comes to keeping records on weather and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
This is one great area for that because I know anybody around here who works the land, and livestock and everything, they have records going back years.
Oh, sure.
About what happens and what happened and how it affected. It's amazing.
There's some good stuff here.
Yeah.
Very diligent
Mm-hmm.
with record keeping and just weather enthusiasts, like you're saying, a couple ranchers just keeping records of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the official records go back to 1888 in Springfield, but there are documents of weather events before that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Missouri became a state, 1823? I think it was 1820s.
1820s, 19. Yeah, because we just, not that long ago, you still have the bicentennial area of when we became a state.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So it would
long
have been
time ago.
1820s, I would imagine.
Somewhere
I think.
like that. I can't remember exactly either.
Yeah.
It was early. I remember looking it up and thinking, wow, that's earlier than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty early. All right. Okay. Well, the other question these people asked me, and Tom, I kind of want to ask you about this
Go
because
ahead.
you born in the 50s.
Yes, I was.
So, okay. So this guy asked me a question. I never heard this question before. It was fascinating.
Okay.
He was an older gentleman. Grew up in the time when nuclear war was a concern.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing all these testings and having to take shelter in the classroom and all those drills of getting on your desk and everything just in case there's a nuclear attack
Yeah.
on the country.
Those were some solid desks, let me tell you.
Well, yeah, no kidding. They would have to be.
Yeah.
But the question this guy brought up was, did those nuclear tests have any influence on the weather of the day? And I just thought, I have no idea. I didn't know.
I would imagine they had to have something on a small scale.
Like a local to where they're detonating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as, if they were underground, I don't know how much of an effect they would have had.
Right.
But when they were still, what is it, the Bikini Atoll and places
Yeah.
like that, that had an effect on the weather.
Well, in the first test in New Mexico.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it does. You're putting it's not as though something just going boom and not taking anything up with it. All that particulate matter and stuff like that. So it does have to it has to have had an effect. I mean, I don't see how it could not.
I mean, yeah, a lot of times we say, bombs and, fire, stuff like that. It's such a small scale compared to what the atmosphere is. But you got a nuclear weapon. That's
Putting
big.
a lot of yes.
That's big.
It's like volcanoes have an effect on the weather.
They sure do.
Now, a nuclear bomb, especially back then, it didn't have the power that an erupting volcano would have.
No.
But it's still putting a lot of. All right, if you're out in the desert, you're throwing sand up in the air. If anything else, you're throwing sand up in the air. Particulate matter makes for condensation, makes for freezing, makes for all of those things. So it has to have an effect on the weather, and it is moved by the jet stream, and it's moved by local winds, and so I cannot. I'm not smart enough. I don't know where. I'm sure there are studies on it, but what exactly it did, I don't know. But did it? Sure, it had to. I think A plus B equals C on this one.
Maybe so. But it was an interesting question.
Yeah.
Something I hadn't really thought about.
Well, it did have an effect because kids like me had to crawl under their desks or go sit in the big hallway with your hands over your head, and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But fun questions. That's we got a couple more of these weather classes coming up too. We're going to try to get some in for the mid-July. So, and more 55 plus communities. So maybe some more questions, some more topics we can mention up here.
They will
Talking with
hold your
Tom.
feet to the fire at the 55 plus. Yes,
They sure will. Well, they've seen a thing or two, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they know what's going on. Well, Tom, this wraps up episode 2 of Talking with Tom.
Sounds good to me.
There was one thing I want to end on. It was a picture from a viewer.
Okay.
And that's not it. But right there. This is from Christy Ross up in Lincoln, Missouri. She got a pair of bald eagles
Yes.
for us. And Christy sends us stuff all the time.
That's beautiful.
She does a good job. She's up near the Truman Reservoir. It's kind of where she's near. And so
You'll find eagles up there.
yeah, up Benton County. The fascinating picture. When she sent this, I thought, is that right? Because I think of bald eagles, I think of wintertime, cold, and here we are sitting 90 degrees, and we got bald eagles still hanging around central Missouri.
There are fish there.
That's true.
They will go. Well, you can find Bennett Spring. You can find them there because they have the trout hatchery.
Right.
I've watched an eagle over an amount of time just constantly circle. He'd land on a branch and then he'd just dive at that trout hatchery.
Oh, man.
And then come back up and around and go. He did it like 5 or 6 times. Couldn't catch a fish.
Yikes.
Anytime he did it. It's like I kept looking at this eagle thinking, if I go over there, I can reach down and pick up a fish. You can. This is your job. And I think he finally got embarrassed and flew away.
Yeah, right. Got laughed out of town.
That was it. All the others were pointing at him.
Funny. Well, Tom, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for yours.
This will wrap it up for today. We'll keep doing this. This is episode 2. We're going to have episode 3 and 4 and 5, and until they tell us, hey, we're done.
That's usually the measuring stick I use too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you. Happy Tuesday, folks. Enjoy the heat while we got it, and looks like a hot week ahead for us.
We'll make it.